Hey, Stephen Young here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts with another high octane walk around, this time with a 1974 Plymouth Barracuda. Now, if you didn't know, the Barracuda came along a decade earlier in 1964 and actually beat the Ford Mustang to the market by about 2 weeks. With that said, most people remember the Mustang as a pony car and the Barracuda as not a footnote, but certainly as a great Mopar, but not as popular as the Mustang. But that's wrong in so many ways. Now, this is a third generation Barracuda. These came along in 1970 through 74. And to some people, the larger E-body structure is the best Barracuda of them all, and I agree. With that said, the beauty of Mopars is we can learn what this car was born as very simply by going to the VIN. Now, if this was a certain GM product or maybe a Pontiac, it's way harder to find out what it was born as. But here we just go with BS23G4. The 23, it's a Barracuda hardtop. G is 318 two-barrel. 4 is the 1974 model year. So this is the very last of the Barracudas. And while the Dodge Challenger was also terminated in 1974 with the Barracuda, it came back. And of course, as we know, the Challenger today is a dynasty. But the Barracuda, well, here it is, the last of the breed right here. Now, this one being a 318 car way back when would not have had the Cuda 440 emblems on the hood or a 440 under that hood. And it's true that after 1971, all big blocks, the 446 pack, the Hemi, the 383 were out. So for 72 through 74, 318, 340 or 360 for 1974 possibilities, and of course the Slant 6 for a couple of years. But this one here was born at 318, but now we're going to find out what's under the hood now. And there it is. Those 440 engine callouts on the hood are no idle boast. This is a 440 big block, the biggest Chrysler V8 of them all. 7.2 liters, and we can tell it's a 440 by looking right here behind the air compressor. This little square bump right here, that's the raised deck architecture seen on 413, 426, and 440. So this is not a 383 or a 400, it's the mighty 440 cubic inch engine. And again, you could not get the 440 in a Barracuda after 1971, but they bolt right in. No harm done. And it's nice to see too here that the cooling system has been fortified. It's thicker than standard. Also has 2 puller fans here. Actually 4 of them. Look at this, 4 electric fans. It'll absolutely keep this 440 cool even on a slow parade. At the drag strip staging lanes, is not going to overheat. That's a pretty mild 440. Cast iron intake, nothing wrong with that. A small Holley 4-barrel, nothing wrong with that. And again, this has the high flow 440 Magnum or Super Commando style exhaust manifolds, which are almost max wedge, but they're better flowing items than the logs you'd find on a lesser 440 Imperial or Chrysler Newport. So it's nice that it's got the heart of a 71 Cuda 440, if you will, in the skin of a 74 318 car. The car does not know the difference. Let's look inside and see what we find there. Inside this final year, 1974 E-body Barracuda, we see the optional high back bucket seats and center console. Again, there was a bench seat option, strange but true, in the Barracuda and the Cuda if you wanted it. But here we have the vaunted slapstick automatic right here, 727 torque flight underneath the transmission tunnel, a mighty transmission, heavy duty stuff. Wood grain wheel right here, and of course the telescoping steering column, this sort of effect you see right here, that's a metal structure that is meant to collapse in the event that it's impacted by something like maybe your forehead. Wear your seat belts, folks. Now, while this particular car was born a 318, it's been given what I might call a greatest hits graphics treatment. Now, we see the hockey stick stripes on the side that say 440. These are something you saw only in the 1970 model year for the Cuda 440. But you know what? The quarter panel is the same from 70 through 74, so why not? Nothing wrong with adding the 440, especially when there is one under the hood for real. Now, the back of these cars, 1970 and 71, have sort of a rectangular looking taillight. 72 through 74, they went circular like this. Another thing too we find on this one has been defederalized. What does that mean? Well, by 1974, bumper laws mandated that the bumpers had to sit out about 3 inches farther than this on these struts with filler panels with big rubber blocks. It was all part of the 5 mile per hour impact thing. Doesn't look that good, so it's easily undone, and we see it right here. The bumpers sit perfectly flush with the body as they were designed to be back when the car was on the drawing board in '68. And you gotta love the Cuda tail pipes. with the tips coming through the rear valance. Very nicely done, and just sort of a gentle flare around that. It's one of the most subtle and effective rear treatments I think that I've seen on any Mopar. And again, the Barracuda 70 through 74, the end of the line for the E-body right here. Now, when we talk about E-body, we're talking not just about the skin of the car, but what's underneath it. And the beauty of the E-body from 70 through 74 is how Chrysler gave it the biggest engine bay possible so they could put the 426 Hemi in these things right on the assembly line, and the big 440. And the beauty is, even if the 440 wasn't born there, it bolts right in. Now, to learn more about this kind of cool greatest hits 440 creation, 1974 Barracuda, the last of the Barracudas, you can check it out on the High Octane Classics website.